Goedemorgen, good morning, welcome at the Fabulous 4 Retail Meetup. This time in English because we have two guests and we'll have a conversation in English. It's 30th of November and we're talking today with Ahold, Delhaize and Gorillas. So here on my left is Anastasia Dellis, she's General Manager Gorillas Netherlands. And on my right, Wouter Kolk, CEO of Ahold, Delhaize Europe and Indonesia. And the experts are Lex Oudijk Salesforce and Rogier van Est of Sandenburg-DST. Well, I'm glad you're here because we're going to talk about a very interesting market. And it's like if you see the images right now, it's like we used to think that the food market would stay the same for hundreds of years. And yeah, like the cassette tape or the disc or the video recorder or the phone or even the typewriter, and see what has happened. All these companies have appeared in all these markets and they've really made the world a different place, and especially for the consumers. So consumers are really expecting a lot from the food market nowadays. And who would expect that LinkedIn used to be maybe a page in the backside of a newspaper, the broadsheet. And Lex, let me start with a question for you as a retail strategist. What is your trend you see in food tech? Because that is, of course, one of the main topics we'll be discussing today.
Well, one of the things I'm very excited about is Iceland. Not the country, but the supermarket in the UK. They are able to predict when fresh produce is about to expire and then push that into someone's basket. So when you are actively shopping for example, carrots, it's like, hello, here's onions. Do you maybe want to, purchase some onions at a very steep discount because it's about to expire. Also, carrots, onions go together really well. So that helps Iceland with their shrinkage program. It helps consumers because they feel as if they get a fantastic deal, and it helps the planet as well. So that's something I'm personally very excited about as a little bit of tech. And not surprisingly, we have Iceland up on the screen now. So yeah, that's.
And that's a Salesforce client, eh?
Yes, it is.
So, and how successful is it?
Well, Iceland as a business is very successful, and especially the name is for a reason. They mostly sell frozen foods.
Yeah.
They're a fast-growing supermarket in the by 4 players and dominated market, but they've been growing steadily, and this has helped them a lot.
Is it a bit like a Picard, the French player Picard?
I don't know the example, but maybe. What is the example?
It's also 100% frozen food.
Oh, okay, well, it's not 100% frozen, but mostly frozen foods.
Is it also private label or also A brands?
They're also private label, but mostly other brands.
But my
In the UK, they're known for their meats and around Christmas.
Yeah.
It's really fun. You see like the biggest frozen turkeys or fish and like.
Yeah, but my question was, of course, is a success, not the company, Iceland Food. But what
Iceland is a success.
Yeah, also especially after
Well, as a small country.
Yeah.
It is a success.
the technology you
Yes,
developed.
Yeah, and it's an exciting technology because everyone benefits. The planet benefits, the company benefits, consumer benefits. So those are innovations I'm super excited about.
Great. Great. Well, let's look at Rogier van Est. Rogier, your trends in food concepts. I'm curious.
In a way, it's not a trend because you showed all these things that are constantly changing. And as a designer, I've always been really interested in human needs, and they more or less always stay the same. But the technology around it or the media around it changes, but the actual need is always fairly constant. If you go back 1,000 years or 5 years ago, or even now, or even in the future. So if you talk about trends, what's interesting, we recently did what's called the Spar Food Club, which is new because this is in supermarkets, and it looks like you're in a food and beverage environment, but it's not. What's constant about it is actually it's really sort of fairly close to what Spar always has stood for, being this local supermarket sort of with local entrepreneurs, adding stuff that really serves the customer where they need it. and it fits their strategy. It's a fairly simple strategy. So Spar Worldwide is a really big company, obviously, but in Holland it's always in these sort of niche areas. University, on the highway, and in the city center, small. And by adding this food concept, they can really tailor it to local needs and serve customers sort of to have this sort of once a week, preferably once a day, attention span.
Yeah, and they want to be
It's sort of the king of convenience.
Yeah, king of convenience. And
That's
this is
their
in
catchphrase.
this store is the first one in Philipping, which is in Zeeuws-Vlaanderen, south of Holland.
If you like a long drive, go there.
Yeah,
It's always the best place for an experiment, by the way.
absolutely. But I must say, I went there and it was like an American diner feeling. You parked your car in front, and then you could basically see target audiences, one going for the coffee and the cakes or healthy sandwich at the bar, the food club, and the other customer going on the right, going into the supermarket, and which is one was
So
really
this is
interesting.
Pickup only. I don't think Uber Eats serves Zeeuws-Vlaanderen, but
I don't think they do.
They're
Maybe
not
they
going
do.
to, but they're going to do takeaway themselves. The entrepreneur.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But is it a kind of like a concept within the Spar, or
Yeah.
is it just a small Spar concept within a other entity? No, it's within the Spar.
Within the Spar.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's for the buurt and for the city stores. And of course, this is a really large example. And this because the store is big.
Yeah.
I think it's 900 or 1,000 square meters. And of course, they're smaller stores. So they're basically starting and they're rolling it out the next couple of years.
Yeah.
To
Okay.
a couple of different cities right now.
But this is, for, according to you, a food concept which is basically shows the trend of integrating food service and food retail.
Yeah, and also this basic human need to have choice and to have that choice when you want it, when you need
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
And if you now also link your example about the price reductions and reducing food waste, and this concept where they can also use food waste in the store to make meals,
Yeah.
that is super
Win,
cool.
win, win,
Yeah.
win.
So don't tell Spar that, but no,
Yeah, well,
actually,
you're absolutely
we started something years ago with In Stock, a similar idea to gather, the excess food that we have from our stores and in a restaurant. And I just came back from Prague last week, where we do this the same in Albert stores. We have also a corner, not a club, but where we also use food from the hypermarkets and then actually sell them for very cheap to our own staff as a lunch and also for customers. So that reduces food waste and gives also the extra experience. So that's really nice.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Well, let's start with our first guest, Anastasia. I found this picture.
I'm now curious what other pictures you're gonna have. I was already impressed by your shirt, but okay.
This is a great picture from Durban,
you.
South Africa.
From
And
Durban, South Africa.
yeah, and your father Greek, your mother South African.
Yeah,
That's your background. You've been here since January 2021.
yeah.
And
Actually in 2020. But
2020 you came
Yeah,
to the
yeah,
Netherlands.
yeah,
Okay.
we moved
What
my
made you
husband's career.
come to the Netherlands?
Great question. We actually moved for my husband's career.
Ah,
Yeah, so my husband's career trajectory brought us to the Netherlands, and it's safe to say that my career has taken us on quite an exciting ride and journey so far. So yeah, my husband is an entrepreneur, and he's started his own business here over the last 2.5 years. Also in the food industry, and has a background in franchising as well. And so yeah, as you know, I then started working with JD.com.
yeah, exactly. And then you from JD you switched to Gorillas.
Yeah.
Well, let's start going back. 7-Eleven, store of your father. You also were owner.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, what was it like to be an owner of a store, which is a convenience store, pure son,
Yeah.
worldwide?
I think going back to the
This
fascinating
is
thing that,
in one of the South African cities.
yeah, exactly similar corner store. My father acquired the store in 1994, so I was at that age of 5-6 years old.
Yeah.
And from a very young age, I can remember begging my father to go with him on the weekend, and I just wanted to play on the cash and play on the till. So for me growing up, in the retail stores, I have very, very fond memories of watching my father service customers. And
Did you only watch him, or did you also help out
I
as your
think-
first job?
I then got stuck in. Yeah,
Okay,
exactly.
cool.
So like I'd say many cliche or stereotypical Greek families. I then grew up in the family business. And then, as you know, at the age of 23, I also inherited my father's business and operated for a year and a half. And so many learnings from operating your own store and going along the journey of entrepreneurship. So, yeah, I think what the 7-Eleven franchise has done very well is building the power of a brand.
Yeah.
I think the brand, you know, over the years across multiple different markets is still alive and thriving. And the model of franchising is a safe way of introducing entrepreneurs to the road of entrepreneurship. It's a safe container for them to grow and thrive in. So very interesting model.
Yeah.
But you were ambitious, you wanted more, so you went to ShopRite.
Yes,
And that's where you learn everything about logistics and planning.
yes, exactly.
So that was a great, like Ahold Delhaize, a lot of people go there, work there, and they learn a lot, and then they leave and do something else. And that's always maybe the role of a big company.
Yeah.
What was it like working for ShopRite?
Phenomenal. I mean, the largest retailer in Africa, I learned so much. And I think growing up in retail and having a very strong understanding of, I'd say, retail on a much smaller scale, really understanding the entire value chain of what happens behind the scenes. And I think if you're working for the largest retailer in Africa, it's supply chain on scale. Earlier we were talking about what JD.com has done in the East, but what ShopRite has done in Africa is phenomenal. So really ahead of its time with infrastructure, tech, people, and I'm really grateful for the experience. I learned so much from it.
Yeah, what intrigued me was that they also work with community farmers.
Yeah.
They actually are in the stores and they sell their produce, fresh produce.
Yeah.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
So they're basically helping.
Right.
Really interesting for Albert Heijn.
Yeah.
If you're looking at the role farmers are put in now, how can you help them to become more part of the supermarket community
Yeah, exactly.
instead of being at a distance?
And the food concepts and the food trends that has already been mentioned this morning has already been adopted by the ShopRite group of companies for over the last 10, 15 years. So really looking at the entire value chain of not only reducing food waste within the store, really going to the source of how you can impact local entrepreneurs, local farmers, sell their produce within the store, use it within food concepts, so very, very progressive retailer.
So whenever I come home from a long trip, I don't feel truly at home until I can walk in my uppie again.
Yeah.
I don't know if you have a similar feeling when you walk in a shop, right? But what is that one thing you miss? Like, I cannot believe these guys don't have this in store.
So the ShopRite group has many brands under it. There's the Checkers brand as well.
Yeah.
And then there's another brand that if you ask any South African living in the Netherlands called Woolworths, that are the kings at convenience. And there's certain products and private label brands from Woolworths that exactly, if you ask any South African in the Netherlands, they're like, I want Woolies, I miss Woolies.
And what kind of product are you specifically missing?
So there's very specific South African product called rusks. It's
Rusks?
basically dipping rusks,
Okay.
that you put in your coffee in the morning. There's ready-to-eat meals that, I'd say are local flavors. So there's quite a few products.
Rusks. Okay.
Okay, fascinating.
Cool.
And then you went to RCL Foods.
Yeah.
So you went on the other side of the table.
Exactly.
And what was that like? National
Phenomenal.
account manager.
Yeah, phenomenal experience. I think working for the largest retailer in Africa, you almost have like big brother behind your back, and you're sitting in this powerful position. I think being the small CPG or the small supplier on the other end of the table gives you a whole different unique perspective on what it's like to negotiate, to build relationships, and to really get your agenda across the table with the big retailers. So also very fascinating experience, and I used really leveraged my relationship building in that role.
Yeah, because in Holland there's always a conversation in the trade press on who has the power. the retailer or the
CPGs.
consumer goods industry? And
Yeah.
what is your perspective?
I was going to ask Wouter, who does he think?
Well, I don't know, but I definitely know who has the margins.
Yeah, exactly. Well, there we go.
And that's not the retailer, I can
That's
tell
not
you
the
that for free.
retailer, But who has the data?
So,
That is, of course, the interest.
Yeah, that's always interesting discussion.
But what was your perspective
Yeah.
after having ShopRite and RCL Foods?
Yeah, I think, I think it's interesting that it has to be a mutually beneficial relationship. I think both parties have to understand that each have something different to offer. And that methodology or that experience has really helped me in building and establishing Gorillas, is that this industry cannot be built in isolation.
Yeah.
Building partnerships, cross-collaborating with suppliers, wholesalers, retailers is incredibly important to us. And I think that I would say archaic power play of retailer supplier needs to be evolved. And so we have taken a very different stance in the quick commerce industry and where we really believe in building partnerships.
Yeah, because you briefly joined JD.com in Europe for the startup we now know as Oshama.
Yeah.
And then you left because you became commercial director at Gorillas Netherlands.
Yeah.
Why that choice? Why do you think, hey, Q-commerce, that's for me?
Yeah, I think looking back at my background, growing up in a corner cafe retail store and understanding the power of what that local store had in its local community, watching Gorillas come to life, to me felt like this is true innovation. This is really how the retail space can innovate.
Yeah.
And I thought it would be a very exciting launch pad also for local entrepreneurs. So very interesting for the local brewery or local bakery to have a launch pad to grow their omni-channel proposition. And so, yeah, I think my personal and professional background was just a natural amalgamation to step into the world of Gorillas and help build for the last year and a half.
And now you're right now. I mean, you became general manager in August.
Yeah.
It's a very exciting time
It is.
because it's a tipping point. I mean, make or break basically in the market of Q-commerce. Who's going to eat who? And you have a suitor, Getir. Can you say something about them?
Unfortunately, I can't. So I won't be speaking to any
that's
market
a
rumors today.
But
Yeah,
you
so no
were.
surprises there.
But you were the one who made actually looked for the marriage between Jumbo and Gorillas.
Yeah,
Because you went to Germany, you told me.
yeah.
Talked to the CEO and founder and said, and he asked you, why don't you talk to Albert Heijn?
Yeah.
And what was your reaction?
Well, I think I can focus rather on Jumbo and and
No, but I mean, why didn't you go for the number one? You want to go for the number two?
I think what was incredibly important for us was having an entrepreneurial partner.
Okay.
And so having the right cultural fit and ability to be agile and fast and move at the pace that we were moving at.
You
at
have
that
a
time.
possibility to respond about her.
I don't know, but anyway, please continue. Yeah. This is going really in the right direction. Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
Albert Heijn is a listed business ultimately. There's so many more stakeholders involved to make decisions and to move at the pace that the quick commerce industry was moving at a year ago during our
Indeed.
hyper-growth phase. Simultaneously to that, our chief commercial officer at the time, Ronnie Gottslish, had a strong network and relationship with an individual at Jumbo, and so did an introduction for me, and the rest was history.
So you agree, Lex, that the choice Anastasia made?
I would have definitely knocked on Wouter's door as well, just to see if what he would have to say. And also, yes, obviously Jumbo is different from Albert Heijn and the large Ahold Delhaize, but you're a very innovative company as well. The AHA Compact, I absolutely adore the app. I really do. We talked about it this morning. There are lots of concepts where you just try. If it doesn't work, you close it, and if it does, you continue. So
I agree.
I never shop at Jumbo. I always shop at Gorillas. So yeah.
But you use the Jumbo products.
I really like the local produce I can get. The bread is phenomenal at Gorillas. I love the fact that I can order a cold beer during halftime of a football match, and I will have it before second half starts. But no, I do not order the Jumbo products because those are more for the big convenience shops, and I will still go to Albert Heijn, and walk there 4 floors down all the way from my apartment.
And for your information, he wasn't paid to say this commercial about Albert Heijn.
But just want to confirm that I 100% agree with you. I think Albert Heijn is an incredibly innovative business and company. I think what Gorillas needed a year ago was an entrepreneurial partner, and I think there's difference between having an entrepreneurial family-run business.
Yeah.
And so that's what I mean by that.
Interesting, Anastasia. Anastasia, I have to say, sorry.
No problem. It's the Greek pronunciation.
It's
the amount of
exactly.
pronunciations of my name, it's totally
Is
fine.
that you, when you became general manager, I remember we had a conversation and you said, I would need to basically be more visible. And you started in October by using the social medium, LinkedIn, by pronouncing actually what the strategy is and the plans. And it was picked up by the trade press. Interesting, because usually you go for an interview with the trade press, but now the trade press basically wrote down what you had to say on LinkedIn. And these are one of the citations. We're more focused than ever on molding our concept into society, whereby account is taken in dialogue with all those involved with our vision, fellow citizens, neighbors, customers, suppliers, partners, and our crew. Really remarkable statement I found. And what did you mean with that statement?
Yeah, I think we, speaking back to what I mentioned earlier, is that we really believe in the power of partnerships. So I think if we think back to our vision, is the future of quick commerce is building partnerships across the entire value chain. So not only with our retail partner, but also our ops crew, it's the neighborhoods that we exist in, it's the municipalities. So we really want to take every single stakeholder along in growing this industry and building the journey forward with us.
Because you felt that the first years that basically Gorillas and the other competitors were not really focusing on that. They were focusing on going fast.
To be honest, it was 100% a focus of us, and we've been very much engaging with stakeholders across the board for the last 2 years. What was a priority a year ago was really laying the foundations of our business.
Yeah.
And
you got lots of money for it to actually do it in Europe.
Multiple quick commerce, multiple businesses got big capital rounds and investment rounds, and yes, we were one of them, and ultimately we had a mandate to build an industry, and we all set out to do exactly that. And I think it's really remarkable if you look at the impact that we've made in the industry over a short period of time.
Yeah.
And how do you see that? Because with your 7-Eleven background sort of ingrained in your DNA. So if you look at lots of the negative stories, and maybe rightfully so, were around sort of these dark stores in city centers, sort of, especially at a time where retail is really diminishing. So how would you sort of see the role of that sort of, yes, it's basically sort of like a mini fulfillment
Micro fulfillment center.
Yeah. But could that be an actual store at a certain point?
Interesting.
Where people can walk in.
Well, Flink had tried that in Amsterdam.
Yeah.
In the back.
I believe that within Gorillas, our proposition is that it remains a micro fulfillment center, or warehouse, or city store, whatever the terminology that you want to use today. I believe that the quick commerce proposition is to maintain on that trajectory within this market. I believe that other brands can definitely explore having an omni-channel proposition, and multiple brands have done that. Albert Heijn has done that really well by having a brick and mortar proposition as well as an online presence, delivering via app, delivering through their partners. So I think that it depends on the brand, it depends on the industry, but for Gorillas and our trajectory, we're continuing to focus on using our warehouses to execute last mile delivery.
Yeah, and you have a forecast, and you also put that in LinkedIn posts. Fully focused, not only building a profitable business, interesting, but also a business that continues to create value for your customers.
Yeah.
Molding your concept into society. Why? I mean, you would say that after more than a year, almost 2 years, in December you started in Amsterdam, you need to become a profitable business, because the capital rounds have dried up.
Yeah.
So it's who's going to eat who.
But I think, if you backtrack, I think the definition of success is a profitable business? What's your bottom line? You know, the definition of a successful business isn't what was your Series A or Series B, and what is your valuation? The definition of a successful business, if you're profitable or not, and if you're sustainable or not. And so I think as a business, you know, it's not something that we overnight changed our mind to. We had the mandate last year of hyper growth.
Yeah.
And in the beginning of this year, I think, you know, everyone shifted together to refocus our strategy towards profitability. And so over the last 12 months, everything that we've done has been very meticulous, working towards profitability.
Yeah, according to Twinkle, in the 100 list in the Netherlands, you have a 73 million turnover. That's in 2021,
Yeah.
I guess. Yeah.
Yeah.
And what do you think this year will be the turnover?
Of course, I can't share.
Are you listed?
Are you listed? No, it's no problem. You're an entrepreneur.
You can say whatever you want.
Exactly.
Double that, Rupert.
Exactly.
Double
Is that the right answer?
I would guess. Yeah.
Is that what you're answering?
What would you guess? What would you guess?
If I don't know your numbers, of course,
Yeah.
but of course I'm listed, so I cannot reveal whatever is in the quarters. But I would guess that your growth rate would be doubling. I would say.
Yeah, it is. We are
Yeah.
growing.
And with the same clients, or the doubling also in terms of how many customers do you have?
So at the moment, we have 1.3 million consumers using our product.
Continuously.
Yeah. And I think it's a very interesting topic you bring up, because part of our road to profitability is really focusing and becoming a lot more efficient on who our customer is.
Yeah.
And targeting the right healthy customer, I'd say. So
Yeah.
customers that are doing full grocery shops, that are using our product more frequently, and at higher retention.
Yeah, right. Interesting. And this is, of course, Utrecht, where basically you're the first Q-commerce player in the Netherlands,
Yeah.
where you reached an agreement with the municipality.
A phenomenal milestone for us. We're really, really proud of this one. And I think it's a phenomenal test case.
And the bikers are in the store, eh?
Yeah, so that's exactly...
That's also interesting.
So
and
what,
it's
what
not
is,
a dark...
what is different than the normal concept? What is here?
So there's what we achieved in this one is that we actually got a permit that allows us to continue operating as is.
Okay.
And what we changed was move all of our bicycles inside into the actual delivery store.
Yeah.
We also looked at the noise pollution and insulated the dark store to reduce the noise.
Yeah.
And we also, you know, really invited our stakeholders in, and we said, what are we doing wrong? Where are we missing the boat? What can we do
Exactly.
better? And so we've been really laser focused on stakeholder management. So yeah, our neighbors have really helped us advocate on how we can become better.
Leuk.
Yeah, and of course, this is the Jumbo Gorillas marriage, and hopefully for Jumbo, because the family also took a stake from the venture company in Gorilla. So really interesting to see next year whether or not with the new situation, probably in 2023, who are going to be the final players in this end game, what the role will be of Gorillas. Yeah, and then we go to Wouter. And here's the picture I found, Wouter, of you in your
also
favorite
happy
spot,
that,
hotel in Amsterdam,
Yeah.
on one of the canals, relaxing.
My office, out of office. Yeah.
Yeah, office, out of office for conversations. And this is something you're very keen on, apart from your role as CEO of Ahold, Delhaize, Europe and Indonesia. Could you tell us a bit more about On Track, where it is now, which track it is on now? It was founded during COVID.
Yeah, well, it was, I would say, one of those COVID initiatives where we as grocery retailers, of course, did a great job, not only providing the food, but of course it was also, you can call it a windfall, but we had quite a successful 2 years, not only with the food business, but also with bol.com, by the way.
So it was giving back.
So we felt we wanted to give something back, and which we did. We helped a lot of the food banks, which are always our long-standing partners. We did a lot of other initiatives, but it still felt like, giving back. And then actually with the teams within Albert Heijn and Bol and Ethos and Gal, we thought, okay, what can we do for society? Because only handing back money is not a good thing. And then we thought like, okay, what are we really good at Ahold Delhaize is educating young talent, because we have, in the Netherlands only more than 100,000 people working for us, with a churn of about 20 to 25,000 people coming to our stores or to our companies, and we educate them. So we thought like, okay, we can do that really well.
Yeah.
And we also thought that in the pandemic, we expected that there will be unemployment and that people were looking for new jobs and new skills and new things to learn. So that's when we also assembled a lot of other folks, Takeaway, but a lot of others, also the Dutch Railways, a lot of other partners who felt the same spirit, like we want to do something for society. And then we built an app called On Track, which was basically a training app where you can learn new skills done by famous people or people who really have that skill. So we built it and during COVID and launched it after that. And what is really nice is actually the ROCs really took on the app, but much more from a learning point of view. It's like, hey, that's a
Educational institutions.
If a famous person is trying to learn you a new skill about basically like how to handle money, how do you deal with confidence, how do you just simple skills, but so important for young people.
Are you a teacher on this app as well?
No, I wish I was not capable enough. So we did think about it, but that would be maybe in the second version.
Okay.
But actually the ROCs were really happy with this because they could use this for their students as a different way of learning instead of the more classic way. So they took it on board. We've signed up with 11, 12 ROCs throughout the country, and they are using it at the moment.
And the nice thing is, of course, that you're talking about Gen Z. They are your clients also.
They are a segment of our clients, most definitely, yeah.
Well, and the funny thing is that I always say that we are the biggest employer for Gen Z.
Yeah.
One of the things that we can still do better is listen to them better, because sometimes we think over them and like, oh, this is what they want. And it's like, yeah, hey, but guys, they are in our stores. Let's listen. Let's talk. Let's see what's going on, because they work with us. They are colleagues. There are, so there's a lot to learn. So that's always fun.
Yeah, and what the nice thing about a big company like Ahold Delhaize, they have a strong purpose. They've thought about it. A lot of strategists.
Yeah.
Eat well, save time, live better. I think probably that would also be your credo if you think about it.
Yeah.
And the growth drivers, we'll talk about them later. What I find interesting are the values, and I would like to counter them with what are the values of gorillas. So it's courage, integrity, teamwork, care, and humor. Why did you choose those?
Well,
as a
why
board?
not? I mean, I think they're super relevant. No, actually, these values came from the merger with Ahold and Delhaize, where we had two companies coming together. And we had values on the Ahold side and on the Delhaize side, and we thought like, okay, what's important in society in the future, and we felt also something what is, important for us. What do we think? And we were actually sitting with the two management teams of the both companies, and we drew these values. I think integrity is kind of clear, nothing special really.
No.
I would say teamwork is so obvious. You cannot run a store on your own. You need to work together. And if you don't like people, then do not work at Ahold Delhaize.
Exactly.
Don't work in retail.
Exactly.
Full stop.
Yeah.
Because it's not it's a job that you do together. So that's also kind of obvious. Care, I think caring for the customers, but also caring for each other, because we are a human-intensive company.
Yeah.
I think is also obvious. I think the other two are more interesting and also give more of a flavor what Ahold Delhaize is really all about. Is courage in terms of trying things, doing things. We are entrepreneurial, but within, of course, a context of being a listed company and a big company. But also take decisions, take ownership, be confident about it. But also the courage to say, okay, it didn't work. Let's move on. Or I made a mistake. It's my mistake. So I'm sorry. I've learned from it, but we move on. So I like courage a lot in our company, and humor I especially like a lot. But it's not about making jokes or something. But it's about being reflective. don't take yourself too serious. We are part of society. You know, we're in the middle of society. Everybody has always something to complain or something.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, so take it lighthearted. You know, you know, we are.
Get the job done also.
Yeah, it's about, you know, being. You know, we
Taking-
are a company with not a lot of hierarchy. We are a first name company. But you know, and that's also with the sense of humor in it.
Yeah.
And
How would you look at this if you look at your own values?
I love the statement that you made about a lightheartedness. I was having a discussion with my husband this morning around building teams and the teamwork element, and I said, you know, you have to really, it's such a pleasure and it's such a privilege to work with teams and people that you genuinely enjoy. So I think having a lightheartedness and, you know, where you can really have that type of camaraderie with your team is really unique and really special and something that I really resonate with. And I think if you think about the average age of a Gorilla's employee or team member, we are a young and dynamic team. And so we're also just, I think, very blessed that we all genuinely enjoy working with one another. So,
But what is the reason why people work at Gorillas and not at Flink or Getty?
I think we're bold. We're bold individuals.
So that's a value.
100%, and living authentically. We own the change, and we're always riding. So I think those are our specific values, and I think the second one, having a space and environment to be our most authentic selves, and myself having the responsibility of continuing to curate an environment where individuals can be their most authentic selves and take bold decisions is something that I'm really proud of that we've built and curated over the last 2 years.
Given the fact we just learned both of your values, could you see yourself swap positions? You work at Gorillas and you work at Delhaize, or you're like, no, I like our culture too much, I like our company too much?
I've switched companies before, so why not? I mean, you know, I think it's a different question. Whether I would like to work for Gorillas or you would like to work for Delhaize, I don't know, but we could. Why not? And there are, I think, also a lot of people who used to work with us who are also in your space, and the other way around, by the way, also in the takeaway or in the other. It's also about groceries. It's about consumers. It's about a concept. So it's very interchangeable, I would think. I think one other thing is maybe also about humor. Not take yourself too serious, but also be positive. You know, I think in our current environment, in our current setting, you know, if we, from a business point of view, are not positive about initiatives, about growth, about how we look at society, how we try to better it with, you know, food waste or other initiatives.
Taking away the plastic bags at the fruit and veg department, I don't even know how much.
But the thing is, we did
yeah.
a lot of, we took a lot away, and then COVID came, and we had to put a lot back.
Oh yeah.
Because customers didn't want to touch anymore a cucumber that didn't have plastic, while we've just removed it. So sometimes you have to be flexible. But now we take them back again.
I think being positive is really such a key component. I think having the right mindset is crucial. Earlier we were saying, you know, our business wouldn't have even started if we saw the pandemic as this crisis moment, but the team that formed all saw an opportunity in front of them to build an industry and build a business.
Very
and
focused.
So, and a positive mindset that saw opportunity.
Yeah, and also in your case, what you just mentioned in Utrecht, I mean, if you see difficulties to get stores or to get locations, and you have to adapt yourself, and then, you know, that's what business is all about, is to be flexible, adaptive, but positive thinking about, instead of being angry that you can't get a site.
Exactly.
Do you think that's part of the success of what I always find super fascinating about Albert Heijn, that it has the strongest, I think, sense of community, linking the magazine, the app, but also the socials and even the advertising. You get this sort of human feel and feel that people are connected. I'm not sure if they're actually connected in all these different media platforms.
Well, we try to, but that's not always easy. But from a spiritual, point of view, it's always good.
Yeah, and that's always driven and done on purpose. Because that's a big, talking about Jumbo earlier, that's for me a big differentiator from Jumbo.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
What's your question?
now do you see? Now I'm fascinated.
Sorry.
Is there sort of a financial gain from that as well, building on that, or is it more a brand building?
No, I think it's not both. It's about real purposeful DNA.
Yeah.
I mean, if you would read the Albert Heijn books of the founder, it's always been there. It's always been like, okay, you need to be part of the community, otherwise there is no existence. I mean, we also had a lot of opposition in some phases we went through. You know, we also had our issues. And we always come back to like, if you lose the contact of the community, the context where you work in, you lose it at the end of the day. And we never want to lose that. And I think everybody understands that. And there are franchisees, by the way, or store managers who do a better job at that. But it's so ingrained in us to do so. And the nice thing is that, by the way, it's not only Albert Heijn. We have 19 brands in the US and in Europe. And everywhere it's the same. They also, by the way, all of them started as a family business, but they came to join the group of Ahold to be listed. But the DNA is so super strong to be also relevant for the community, and a lot of people get a lot of pride out of it too. So and I think that's super valuable.
Yeah, Wouter, you're now almost 4 years CEO and board member. Of
4 years,
Delhaize.
yeah. I've just been extended.
Just been extended. And before
I was
that,
the only one who was cheering. 99.98%. Yeah, and my oldest daughter was like, "Who was the one who was not voting for you?" And I thought like, okay, how can you think of that? You know, but I thought like, who is it actually?
Well, it's a very good question she made. And before that, Wouter was CEO of Albert Heijn. And that's when he wrote a book,
Amazing.
Appie Tomorrow. So that's for you.
Thank you so
And that's
much.
about the future
Thank you.
of food. So all the learnings for the future of gorillas are also in there.
Phenomenal. Thank you.
And that was, of course, focused back then in 2018 on what 2025 would be like, not knowing there will be a pandemic.
No.
And the whole
did
world
not know?
changed.
No.
Didn't
Well,
know.
it was in the appendix. So,
But it was amazing how much has changed and how big the change you came along.
Yeah.
Probably
Is that predicted?
well, it wasn't predicted, I think.
Well, we did test already at quick commerce, but
Proposition.
as I said, but in 18, but there was no demand at that time, and people didn't want to pay for it
I
either.
think product market fit and timing really is
timing.
crucial.
So it's amazing. I mean, sorry, Lex.
This was written in 2018, looking forward to 2025. We're almost in 2023, looking forward to 2030.
Yeah.
What's your positive, because we're talking about positivity today, what's your positive outlook to the world and especially food retail?
Good question.
So, where to start? I don't want to reflect to the book, but actually all the themes are still there. It's also about community, and what I really appreciate is that it's also in your thinking. So it's not only us; it's also more companies understand the importance of it, and it's not only marketing, but it's real purposeful, I would say, because otherwise people will recognize it immediately. I do think that what I still love in this business is the change always. And you mentioned that Iceland example. We actually just implemented that at Albert Heijn, where we had to start to build a complete digital store almost without paper, and then we have now electronic shelf labels digital, which also do detect now also when the chicken, the salmon and the meat is running out of date, and we are pushing it locally, like, hey, we have too much stock for the demand that we see in our checkouts, so we can also now give it a discount so that people buy it, and then we don't have to throw it away.
Do you foresee yourself also taking the role of nudging people towards even healthier and healthier decisions? You're doing a AHA premium already, but like...
I can tell you a story which is interesting how it works, and I have a lot of debates with all the more fanatic people around this in this spectrum is like, you need to take out this product and you need to stop selling
Stop
that.
selling candy.
But
No cigarettes.
well, exactly. One of, but no Red Bull or no this, no that. I can tell you a whole list of things that we're not allowed to sell. What we did once is that you have the soda category, the frisdranken, and we put them in a ranking of a lot of sugar, no sugar, and a lot of sugar was dark red. We put a sticker on it, moving up to white. And we organized the assortment according to the sugar levels. Mm-hmm. Guess what happens with the customers? Nobody's going to buy the dark red. Nobody really wants to. Some of them were already buying that white section, was buying the white section. So people start to move from dark red to... And what else is happening was interesting with the suppliers. Nobody wanted to be in the dark red box.
Coca-Cola.
Yeah. So they moved also there. So actually, at the end of the day, we saw that customers are making better choices, well informed. Industry is moving also in the right direction.
So you nudged them.
Yeah, and that is what I really believe in. And then we thought like, okay, what kind of system can we build to help the customers on this? And then we tried, we have guiding stars in the US, kind of like, okay, it was difficult. And then we found Nutri-Score, which is used in France. And we introduced it in Belgium, in Delhaize. And that's where, it's very easy for customers. At least, it's maybe not perfect, but it's at least something where customers can easily choose the better option. And the other thing is what is happening as well is that the CPGs, the A-brand suppliers, they also want to be in an A-B category instead of the D-E. And with our private label, we're also moving into that direction. And the problem is that when you are reducing a lot of sugar in one time, customers don't like it because the step is too big. But if you do it gradually, customers get used to it.
Yeah.
So, and I really believe in a system like that because also digitally, it's so much nicer to play with. Because if you're in your app, even in a Gorillas app, and you use Nutri-Score, you can say like, hey, you like this product, but we have a healthier option for you. Instead of like a cheaper one, I can give you a healthier one. And what I would really love is that, and at Ahold we are adopting Nutri-Score, but sometimes governments are supporting it and sometimes not. But I would love to come as an industry to a kind of like a simple guiding system that can help us to move into a healthier part. And then the next level is carbon, because we also, because customers do want to make smarter choices on lower carbon. But so we also need to develop that together with other retailers, together with the industry, for lower carbon options. And we can, at bol.com, we have millions of products, but I can put on a product, as long as we have a standard, what is the lower carbon option or the healthier option.
Exactly.
And so the nudging, I agree, but it needs to have a system behind it, which is credible, where everybody also can join, because if it's only me, then it doesn't work, but also my other colleagues in the retail need to be able to do it, A-brand suppliers need to do it, and then I think we can move a mountain together.
I totally
Anastasia,
agree.
yeah.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think that that's the power of data as well.
Yeah.
Is once we have the data, we can really help consumers make more informed choices, and we can help curate more personalized experiences for consumers. So I completely agree with you, and I think keeping everyone along the value chain accountable to lower and lessen their footprint. To make healthier choices, we have to do it collectively.
Yeah.
So
And give the customers the option.
Yeah.
And let them make the choice, and they will make the choice. I mean, they're not stupid.
Exactly.
And we've seen that with that simple test. And the funny thing is actually, I was talking to Johan, the CEO of Super Indo in Indonesia. They don't have Nutri-Score, but he wants to do something. And so he's now actually also implementing this red to white. So let's see what happens.
Let's see
there.
what happens.
I said I can predict to you what will happen. So it's fun.
But to your question earlier around the future of the industry and what's going to happen, earlier we were speaking quite interestingly enough about social commerce. And I think how the future of quick commerce will amalgamate with social commerce, and how we can educate and empower consumers to make better choices through social commerce as well, is going to be a very powerful tool. I think wearable technology within the health tech sector, amalgamating or crossing over into food tech is also an incredibly interesting trend. Just using data to really empower consumers to be the most optimal version of themselves. Yeah.
Let's look at the growth drivers. I took the growth drivers from Ahold Delhaize.
Yep.
So this is the first growth driver. I'm curious, Anastasia, how do you look at drive omni-channel growth? And Wouter often talks about stickiness. In this perspective, why do you often talk about stickiness?
No, it's for us. It's from a marketing definition. Customer lifetime value is like, okay, we can of course see with our data is what does a customer buy in the store and what does it do or she do us online, and we look at the total basket. So do you, and we see how we can grow the basket. We also combine, if a customer agrees on it, we can also combine their shopping behavior at Ethos and Gal and Bol, so we can see the whole thing, and also see how we can help customers, to get more relevant choices. And I think that stickiness, that they come back to us all the time, that we have the right answers and the right solutions. I think that is critical for us. And for us, we always have seen, since the day we've started, that a customer who buys online and offline buys more with us than just one or the other. So that's why we believe in omnichannel, although there are different P&Ls of the different propositions, but the combination is for us very important.
Do you believe in this growth driver?
Yeah, 100%. I think the future of retail is omnichannel, and I don't think it's necessarily to food grocery sector, but across sectors we'll have to adopt an omnichannel proposition. And what I shared earlier is what is amazing about what Gorillas has curated is providing local entrepreneurs, the local bakery, the local brewery, butchery, a launch pad to have an omnichannel proposition as well, because they really do fundamentally believe in exactly what you're sharing, is that there is a space for the brick and mortar store and the online space to coexist with one another. Yeah. So yeah, totally agree.
So, but the question was put to you earlier in the program, would you consider not only having an app, but also having other touch points in the future? So,
funny enough, a year ago, we actually trialed during the lockdown last Christmas, a click and collect proposition. And we found that consumers weren't interested. Our consumers that are using quick commerce proposition want groceries delivered within minutes. And it was also towards our really getting laser focused on our strategy is to continue doubling down on our strategy with the quick commerce proposition. So for us as a brand right now, no, we wouldn't. But for other brands and other sectors, I think it's an absolute no-brainer to say, I'm only going to do brick and mortar stores. I'm only going to do online. I think having an omnichannel proposition is the future. But for Gorillas per se, right now, where we are, we wholeheartedly believe in our strategy.
Yep, I understand. I understand. Yeah. And growth driver number 2, elevate healthy and sustainable. Wouter talked about it, of course, also extensively just now. And how do you look at that? Is that really important? Do you see that your customers, who are often spontaneous in their decision to use your app, also are able to be nudged to take a healthy option or maybe a sustainable option?
8 out of 10 of our consumers have fruits and vegetables within their grocery basket.
And do you know the age group and where they?
Yeah. Of course we know the age group.
Are they younger people?
Or so a range of young families, young professionals, students. But I think really honing in on young families in tier 1 cities, really that are time sensitive, but our proposition and our product is used by everyone.
Every bag either has a banana or an avocado in it.
The number 1 product is a banana.
Bananas
Also for you.
Yeah, exactly. So, I think fruit and vegetables, consumers want to be healthier. And I think there's been a lot of speculation that in the past that the quick commerce proposition was only used as a convenience space. And what we've seen over the last year is that our average order values are over the €30 mark, 30 to 35 euros even. So really moving towards that full grocery shop. And I think our partnership with Jumbo has really helped us leverage their brand perception as a grocery player. And at the moment in our app, we have over 350 private label items. So also, I think if you think about levers and growth drivers for the future, in this macroeconomic environment, private label is also incredibly important.
Absolutely.
And basically for us, the health and sustainability is not only about healthy food, it's also about reducing plastic, food waste, we talked about, and the carbon emission. We just launched our ambition on that for the group and specifically for Albert Heijn. So our carbon footprint is also incredibly important to reduce it. And this is also something which we cannot do alone. So we have all our suppliers need to join us, all our infrastructure needs to join us. So those are for us key elements. And I can imagine if you're using bikes and other things, you have the same ambition, I would assume.
100%. Our operation is 100% carbon neutral at the moment, but we have very big ambitions to continue really challenging the status quo around sustainability. Like you say, it's really about the back end of the value chain as well. So now taking everyone along the journey.
The famous scope 3. So it becomes priority number 1.
Exactly.
It does.
Exactly.
It does.
Exactly.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Let's see at growth driver number 3, cultivate best talent. Interesting, of course. Wouter already talked extensively. I think there are 120,000 people actually working for your companies.
Here in the Netherlands.
It's amazing. And worldwide, how many work for you?
About 400,000 plus.
400,000 plus. It's a huge company. And of course, it's prime importance that you have the best talent to engage. How do you look at that at Gorillas? I mean, how do you attract the best people?
I think if you look at our core team, the team has been there from the very early days. So like I mentioned
office,
earlier, exactly. So our HQ team is over 100 people, and the majority of us have been there from the very early days, sitting in the pipe on a crate, listing suppliers, pitching the product, and now 2 years later, we've all been very committed to the vision of building a new industry and building a business. And so I think the business has attracted and retained talent because we have a very strong vision to make an impact and make a positive impact. And we also have the autonomy to be agile and to move fast and to shift and change strategy and direction as needed. And
this is, of course, the people at Albert Heijn. But here, this is interesting. You have an agreement with a partner who provides the bikers. How important is it to have partner like this company?
Incredibly important.
So you just reached this agreement last month?
We've been working with them for actually the majority of the time. We formulated
the agreement you made?
We formulated the agreement to say that we'll continue working together and continue to flesh out the industry together.
And what do they offer that you can't?
So I think what has been challenging over the last 2 years is as the industry arose, everyone was then looking for the same rider crew and rider race crew. And I think the key component when setting up a business and setting up an industry is really knowing your strengths and outsourcing what is not, and outsourcing to partners where you need support. For example, exactly as we approached Jumbo and started working with them on, leveraging their buying power and leveraging the power of their brand and their knowledge within the retail sector, we also looked to those that have come long before us within the delivery sector, and Bike Shift has done exactly that. So,
do you hop on a bike from time to time?
Yes, of course, 100%.
This morning,
yeah, so 100%. I mean, so all of us do. We actually have a competition running in our business at HQ called Tour de Gorillas, and so we have an internal competition about who supports, when they support, and so I think, leading by example is incredibly important, number one. But I think number two, it's fascinating to open the door and see who your consumer is and have those conversations. So yeah, I might be delivering to someone's home in Amsterdam this weekend.
Ah,
If you
okay.
talk about leading by example, I'm always curious about bike safety.
Yeah.
And I live in Rotterdam. It's really crazy there because we have quite a lot of rental rental scooters. And I think we have all of the delivery
We have-
guys on
we
the
have
bike
it here, too.
probably the same. And the bike paths are here even smaller.
And some go 40 kilometers per hour, and the
Yeah.
other
Yeah.
one go 18 kilometers per hour.
How do
Yeah.
you manage
Yeah.
and improve on safety?
Yeah, I think it's something that's incredibly important to us. It's actually a non-negotiable is the safety element, and something we continue to invest in. So making sure that on every rider onboarding that they go on a safety training, that they have the right gear, so that they wear helmets, reflective gear, winter kits now going into the winter months. So it's something that we continuously invest in. We're a rider-centric company. For us, our riders are at the heart and at the core. So continuing to invest in training and development.
And they only work for gorillas, or in the evenings at night they also work for...
No. So an
Albert Heijn
interesting point. No, they only work for gorillas. They have contracts with permanent contracts with gorillas, and I think that's what Bike Shift also interesting to share with Bike Shift is that although they pass on the lead, the employee has a contract with gorillas. So or the rider has a contract with gorillas. So yeah, it's not as far as I know that they have. Other
side.
Exactly, side
Well, they're
hustles.
tough times.
Well, they
You have
could.
to pay the
We
bills.
have a lot of part-timers too working for us,
Yeah.
and they also have other jobs. And some people really choose for that. So
100%,
Yeah.
100%. And
Yeah.
I think in the early days we also had the perception that that our rider crew would want the flexibility. But the feedback that we've received is that they want the stability, they want
Yeah.
a contract, they
Yeah.
want to be employed with us, they want to work for X amount of hours.
Yeah.
Also, it's very different for us. The average age of a rider is around 24 years old. It's not necessarily, I'd say, they're in high school or younger, where they are more maybe opportunistic with their time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what is also fascinating, by the way, in this talent topic, is understanding what are the demands of the younger generation. What do they like? But also in terms of like, how do they like to learn and develop, and what do they really value from a company? You know, it's also about diversity, equity, inclusion.
Yeah.
It's about reward and recognition, and sometimes the younger generation has a completely different kind of mindset than sometimes when you deal with workers' councils and unions,
Yeah.
because they are unfortunately also most of the time represented by an older generation, and they are demanding this. Well, I know, but my young folks want that, you know. So it's a big dichotomy to really manage well, because the future is of course with the younger generation, and we need to be prepared to accommodate that, and that can sometimes clash quite a bit.
Yeah, and you
know,
don't have to
dynamics.
deal with unions yet, huh?
So, no, but I want to speak to the point on talent and development. You are so right. It's something that we get, the feedback that we get from our team on a daily basis is, is how can we continue to grow and invest in our personal development.
Yeah.
And I think there's nothing better than helping shape an industry and helping shape a business that is an MBA in practice or application. But I do think formalizing it and offering those opportunities is also the feedback that we really hear from our teams.
And then I think also that with the coming of gorillas, but also some other pure players, we also get into the CLA territory. And there you see also
CLA is
the vakbond,
the unions.
the unions, but also within the supermarket business, we have agreed on a level playing field within all the supermarkets what the salary structures are of all our people who are working for us. But now with new incumbents, you get a shift. It's like, hey, but Picnic does it differently, Crisp does it differently, you do it differently. So there's also a new kind of like, okay, where also the collective labor agreements, CLA, where they also start to say like, okay, what kind of standard do we use? Because what I think works best is everybody works on a level playing field. So it is, you have at least the CLAs are the same, and then you at least then can grow on what you want to do as a company further. But you see, but that's also fascinating, I think, when with all the new entrants like you, that suddenly it's like, hey, okay, what's happening here? What should be the CLA? Mm-hmm. Is it a gig worker? Is it, because then we have a lot of riders too in our vans, and they are also, so it's...
They're hard to come by, eh?
Yeah.
Well, that is, full stop at the moment. Thank God, with all the inflation, I'm so happy that the unemployment rates are still very low, because that's when the economy can still go. But if we would have a high amount of unemployment, I think we would be a real issue. But so also setting the payment standards, the labor agreements, and how do you compare it or not? It's an interesting topic.
It's a very interesting topic, and I believe fundamentally we operate in a different sector. The e-commerce CLA is completely unique and different to the supermarket sector. We have pickers and riders, you have merchandisers and cashiers, they operate at different times of the day, so it's they're core fundamentals that are just so unique and different. But like I said earlier, we're a rider-centric company. We really want to do what's best for our rider crew, and we believe following the e-commerce CLA is the right way forward at the moment. And over 95% of our riders are employed by us. And so they voted in favor of the e-commerce CLA a year ago as well. So
it
is interesting.
But then you also have the dynamic of PostNL and Bugby and takeaway. So suddenly it's interesting when a newcomer comes, it disrupts not only from a consumer point of view, but also on many other
Exactly.
point of view.
So that's enough about talent.
Absolutely. So let's focus then on the last one, the growth driver number 4, which is strengthen operational excellence.
Well,
Always, is that the goal, or is that just a means of getting
but
success?
I think, and we started to talk about it as well, we have a natural tendency, and the word in Dutch, grocer, kruidenier, it doesn't come from nothing. It means that you are stingy and you look at your cost all the time to reduce it, because we are a thin margin business, and some elements of our business is no margin. So for us this is super important. It also creates a lot of creativity to do things more efficient, more different, to be open-minded about it. It drives change.
This was recently opened, home shopping center.
Well, we are building it right now. We've also we have home shop centers which are manual, so that is our dark store, which we use for online delivery. But we are looking to automate it as well.
And that's why you went to the UK last
well,
week.
we've always been looking at the right solutions. We have been looking at Ocado already many years ago. I've been there. I've looked. I also went to JD. What did they do? We of course eyeballed Amazon, but they're not so open-minded about it to share our technology. But everybody see the mystical robots going around. So we've always been looking at opportunities to automate. And it's not only about cost reduction. It's also it's heavy labor to lift and shift goods. And there is also a lack of availability for folks. So
you mentioned you always need to be stingy, but for some reason you get to splurge on one problem. What problem would you tackle with like unlimited budget?
I think, for us, growth is still the most, I would never want my whole company focusing only on cost. We always have to do that. But growth is the biggest opportunity to offset, cost inflation. And so I rather, if I get a lot of splurge, then I rather focus it on growth and growth opportunities and test and learn and go. I think that ultimately brings more in the future than only cost reduction. But it just needs to be a mindset. of our folks, of myself, to at least when we do something, see if we can reduce cost immediately. And cash is super important, just to free up cash out of your company, to reinvest in new renovation, in new stores, in new, what do you think that automated warehouse cost? I mean, millions.
More than €10, yeah.
I think so too. So you need to be able to afford that. So that's why you need to look at, and we are looking at every time.
I agree.
And what would your goal be?
I agree. I think if you go to a year ago, we were raising serious rounds, and the mandate was grow at all cost.
Yeah.
And
€1
exactly
billion
that's
you got. Huh?
strategy. And we did that really well. We executed on that mandate really well. But I think as you move through different phases in your business, it is exactly that conundrum of how do you balance profitability with growth, and finding that right balance and prioritizing what to invest in at what time, in order to maintain that balance. And for us, growth was incredibly important a year ago, and establishing our footprint, establishing our brand, gaining the right consumers. And so there was a lot of out-of-home and brand awareness campaigns, a lot of investment in marketing, and then this year towards operational excellence and really having that retail mindset, being incredibly meticulous about every single euro spent, and adopting that mindset very quickly.
Yeah.
So your experience with ShopRite is now coming in handy.
Yeah, but I think, it had from the get-go, and I think that is what, when I was hired, is, having a retail mindset and having retail knowledge in our business is, I think, deemed very valuable. And it's an amalgamation of talent to build the future in tech, but then also build it off of retail principles and methodologies and infuse that into our business. And I think that we've done that very well, and our retail partnership shows exactly that, is that it has put us in a very unique positioning within the Dutch market and in other markets as well.
Yeah, finally, what can gorillas learn from Ahold Delhaize?
And the other way around.
The other way around. So, what do you think?
I've already learned a lot from Wouter in our short conversation this morning. So super inspiring. But to the point earlier, Lex, of what you were sharing around an incredibly innovative business and brand. I'm, very much inspired by what's being curated online. If I look at the app as well, and to what you were sharing earlier here about community building and brand building, I think the business has done an excellent job at continuing to innovate in all different spaces along the way. So I think there's a lot to learn from the pioneers in Bloom.
What can you learn from them not to do? That's more interesting.
I think
from the big players, the supermarket players in the Netherlands. It doesn't have to be Ahold or Albert Heijn specifically, but...
I don't think that there's something that I would do different. Again, I think it's a completely different proposition.
Okay.
So I think there's... I'm lucky enough to be in a position to be inspired by certain factors of the retail industry, but it's ultimately a completely different proposition to what we're building. So again, to my point earlier, there are principles and methodologies that we can infuse into our business, but what we are building is something completely unique and completely different. And I think ultimately, hopefully, impact and inspire the retail industry to shift and move the entire sector forward together with us.
Well, I think you've done already in the last 2 years.
Yeah, and I think what I always find fascinating with startups, and I also learned that in the Silicon Valley trips that everybody did, of course, is that they say, okay, we are a startup of 100 years old, so that you stick to your DNA, you stick to your true core, the purpose that is so strong in the beginning. We've experienced it with the enormous growth of bol.com. It's like how do we can grow and scale, but still have the Bol family spirit, still have that agility, that quickness, that we want to
Being a
disrupt also.
speedboat.
Yeah, but and I think also and also these conversations are nice also about, you know, what is the fundamentals of Albert Heijn, you know, what, you know, just to reiterate what are we and what are we made of and what is important for us, and just to keep that. And I think also growing Gorillas, but still be true to your core, be true to the things that's I think what is fascinating about, you know, startups, and that's what we can learn also of you know, bigger companies still to remain like, okay, what is really essential, because sometimes you lose it. And actually always with a crisis, when somebody lost it, they go back to their core. Yeah. They go back to their what is, and I think we know enough examples in retail where they go back to their essence, where they go back to their true DNA, and then keep that going while growing is a fantastic journey. Yeah. So that's what I always can learn from, you know, newcomers, startup, you know, especially when they scale up quick. And for us, it's always. Because we, you know, as I said before, we tried it as well, and we most of the time are a bit too early. And then we also teamed up, which is also interesting. But just to keep on learning, be flexible, but also true to yourself, I think is so critical.
Yeah. Rogier, would you say from a conceptual point of view, this is in the right way to look at your company, no matter how big it is, no matter.
Yeah, I'm a firm believer of this. Well, I think that's where I started with, sort of what does the consumer really want and needs, and sort of there at the core of it, and then always build everything you do around that, and that should be in your DNA. And we are in this, we've been in this time now for the past 5 to 10 years when people talk about scale up startups, and they reference sometimes companies that already have been around for 20, 30 years. And it does take time also to be and become successful.
And then I've also learned a lot in terms of don't assume anything. You know, don't assume. We always said like, well, they, at some point they need to make money, they can't continue, and they still continue. You know, it's like, how is it possible? Don't assume that they don't want to talk to you because we are big and bureaucratic. You know, just try it. Yeah. And you know, so don't.
But you're not big and bureaucratic, huh? I mean,
no, but I heard that that was the opening part of. I never got a phone call from Gorillas, so.
Now she has your number.
But so don't assume, you know, and I always keep it like, Wouter, don't assume that these guys can't grow. That they, you know, we had many different concepts where we said like, wow, this is gonna, you know, don't assume anything, just don't.
Yeah, and don't be the Ministry of Food.
No,
absolutely.
Which we are definitely not. No, no.
I think it's such an interesting point. You know, if I look back on the journey as well of the last 2 years, something that we really had to learn is how to ruthlessly prioritize. And I think when you're in the building phase, you want to do everything and establish everything, but sometimes you have to make very quick decisions and prioritize what you believe are the best decisions. And so I think we've done quite a good job at that over the last 2 years.
Well, we come to an end. We extended the broadcast because it was so fascinating. Thank you very much, Anastasia Dellis from Gorillas, Lex Oudijk from Salesforce, Rogier van Est from Sandenburg-DST, and of course Wouter Kolk from Ahold Delhaize. On the 6th of December, the day after St. Nicholas, very important fest in the Netherlands, we have 2 big brand companies, IKEA, the CEO and the CEO of A.S. Watson, better known as, of course, the brand Kruidvat and Trekpleister. They both will be here and talk about omnichannel retail in 2023. So in case you don't know what next year will bring, these gentlemen will tell you everything about it.
Well, it will at least be interesting.
It will be.
Exactly, I'll agree.
Thank you very much for listening to and looking at this broadcast, whether it's on Spotify or on Retail Trends, our, of course, main media partner for the past 2 years. Thank you very much for watching. My name is Rupert Parker Brady. I hope you tune in next time at the Fabulous 4 Retail Meetup. Thank you.
Thank you.